What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. It's a press coverage show, which means we're going to do a breakdown of one singular topic on a Monday, sort of like the after party. Joining me to celebrate the party after the party's the after party, and after the party's the hotel lobby. Is that what Jay-Z said? Tyler Sullivan, aka Sully. What's up, buddy? I don't think Billy expected me to quote Jay-Z out of the gate, by the way.
Yeah, I'm good. What's going on? Well, yeah, I'm always here for the after party.
Yeah, I'm always here for the hotel lobby.
There you go.
I like throwing parties in hotel.
It's actually R. Kelly, not JC, but
it was.
Go off, King.
I'm not a big R. Kelly guy.
That's good.
Neither are. I don't think most people are.
Most people are not big R. Kelly guys. Is it? I swear it's a line of that. I swear Jay-Z says that. Oh well.
I think it's one of those lyrics that like.
R. Kelly definitely says it too, but then yeah, I think there's something in I'll find it anyway. That's not the point of this show.
Certainly, that is a singular topic, by the way.
Yeah. It is a singular topic. Detroit Lions. I dubbed them last night a few years ago, well before they traded for Deshaun Watson. Back when they had Baker when Baker first arrived. They had like all these, they had various, just like, it was like the Browns were kind of getting hot. And I dubbed them America's team, America's new team. Cowboys out, Browns in. Stuck, worked for a little bit. They made the playoffs. Not America's team anymore. You know who's America's team, Sully? The Detroit freaking Lions and Dan Campbell, a.k.a. Dan the Man, a.k.a. PC Principal. They started 1-6. You can see it at the graphic on YouTube, youtube.com/pick6. If you're listening, if you're watching, subscribe, hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe. 1-6, now 5-1 in their last 6 games, averaging almost 30 points per game. They have defense has stepped up in a huge way. First 7 games, and as Breach noted last night, they have one of the hardest schedules in football in terms of like opponents' winning record. Allowed 32.1 points per game the first 7 games, only allowing 20.3 points per game the last 6. Turnover differential from -5 +8. The Lions have turned things around completely. They're 6-7. Are they a legitimate playoff contender?
Yeah, I mean, of course they are. You have to take them seriously when they take down a Minnesota Vikings team, who I think a lot of us were scratching our heads being like, why is all of a sudden Detroit being favored? But Vegas knew this is a team that's legit. And moreover, maybe even Minnesota isn't legit. We'll find that out in the next few weeks. But to me, it's all about this week against the New York Jets, which is so funny because you have the team with the longest playoff drought in the NFL in the New York Jets, and the team with the longest active playoff without a playoff win in the Detroit Lions. And so both of these teams need this game to really solidify themselves in that postseason conversation. More so, I would say the Lions, because they kind of have a little bit more work to do. But if they get past this game, you're looking at a very favorable schedule. Every other team is under 500 the rest of the way. Carolina's coming on strong. You have to go there the following week. But, Chicago, at home, you go to Green Bay. Who knows who's going to be the quarterback in that game? There is certainly a path here for the Detroit Lions to make the playoffs.
So I had done a short for it for our YouTube channel. Again, youtube.com/pick6. You can check out the shorts on the site on the page. And I had sort of broken it down. And the Lions could win out when I did. They had 5 games left, right? Obviously the Minnesota game. They could win out and get in with 10 wins. There's also a path where they could win. They could have gone 4-1. So they can still go 3-1 and get in, especially because in week 14, everything that they needed to go their way went their way. We're just focusing here on the NFC, of course, but they had to beat the Vikings, and they did that. They did it handily. They needed the Eagles to beat the Giants, and the Eagles did that quite handily. And then they needed the Panthers to beat the Seahawks. And the Panthers obliged and went on the road and took out Geno Smith in what is a massive game. I mean, they didn't have to have that one, by the way. I mean, and they could have used the Buccaneers beating the 49ers. But point being is that they needed the teams in the wild card hunt to lose those games and to really shrink the gap between them. And now you have a situation where Dallas is 10-3 with their win. I mean, that's a pipe dream to suggest Dallas is going to fall off far enough to come back to earth. But Washington 7-5-1 coming off their bye. The Giants 7-5-1 coming off their bye. Seattle 7-6. and then Detroit at 6 and 7. Now Green Bay, Carolina, Atlanta are 5 and 8 behind them. They're still technically lingering, but I think more likely is that in Green Bay and Detroit playing week 18, but more likely is that Carolina could steal the division from Tampa Bay. I mean, we could have a playoffs. We talked about this on the pod last night. We have a playoffs where it's like Carolina, Tampa, or Carolina, Dallas, Seattle, and Detroit. And that's just not something that anyone would have seen coming, around like mid-season where, those teams sneak in. And Detroit to me is the most live one. I mean, they're running hot, and they're running hot at the right time.
And not only that, they do have a few feathers in their cap when you start talking about these tie-breaking scenarios, because obviously it does feel like that's kind of where we might be heading with all of this. They were able to beat Washington in week 2, so they have the head-to-head tiebreaker against the Commanders. They were able to beat the New York Giants in week 11. That'll give them the head-to-head tiebreaker. The only one that they don't have a head-to-head tiebreaker on is Seattle, who they lost to back in week 4. But if it doesn't come to that with Seattle, they do have a better conference record than Seattle right now. Detroit's 5-4 against the NFC. Washington's 4-4-1 against the NFC. New York is 3-5-1 against the NFC, and Seattle's 5-5. Washington and New York will cannibalize each other, and you have Seattle going up against the San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy next week. So that's a game where all of a sudden they could be going under 500 in the conference, which could play a factor because that's the next tiebreaker outside of head-to-head. So there is certainly over these next few weeks almost a realistic chance. I was flirting around with the 538 kind of playoff projector, and you just do the next 2 weeks. You have the Lions beating the Jets. You have the Lions beating the Carolina Panthers. Some combination of the Commanders and Giants beating each other. It really doesn't matter. But if the Commanders lose the following week in week 15 to the 49ers, and you have the Giants lose in Minnesota, you're looking at a playoff odds projection of 73% for the Detroit Lions. And that's just in a 2-week span. And you just got to win 2 games. And those games with the Commanders and the Giants, they're going to be underdogs in that game. And we're not even talking about Seattle next, who has, like I said, San Francisco, and then they have to go to Kansas City. All of these remaining schedules for these main opponents for the Lions are much more difficult than what the Lions are in front of them. It's just this Jets game and that stingy defense that gets me a little bit concerned. But if they can get past that, you're looking pretty good.
It's almost like it's not a bad thing, but it's like you get this hot, you get this close, everybody's talking about it, and now you just simply have to go beat the Jets and the Panthers on the road, which seems easy. It's not like a guarantee at all. I mean, again, the Jets are above 500. They are in the playoff. They are right outside the playoffs at 7 and 6. New England can get in that same tie with a win on Monday night. And the Panthers are, I think you described them as coming on strong. I mean, I'm not criticizing that description. They're 5 and 8. I mean, they're playing much better than they were to begin the season.
They might win a division that is going to require an under 500 record to win that division. So they might
win the worst division in the history of professional football.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is saying something. Now, the Panthers have won that division multiple times under 500, so or 500 or worse. So wouldn't be that shocking, I suppose, although it is pretty putrid how it's going. And yeah, I was looking at that 538. I love how, with 538, like ESPN's playoff machine is great because it puts, it moves people and it shows you where that they can end up going. The 538 one's nice because it gives you actual odds if they win certain games. And as you point out, even without the other teams doing anything, if the Lions just win the next 2 weeks, their playoff odds are 55%.
Yeah. And
you just put yourself in a spot where, and we have the, Commanders. If they, I guess that didn't actually matter, that game between Washington and the Commanders. They just don't want to.
It really doesn't. I've been kind of going back and forth. It goes from it's within 2%. It's nothing particular.
Right. Because they just need somebody to win.
Right. And they have the tiebreaker against both of those teams.
And I think if you're the Lions, and like they're not like Dan Campbell's not sitting around looking at this. Don't get me wrong. Like I don't think. I do think you look at it and say, okay, the Giants have the Commanders, the Vikings, the Colts, and the Eagles, whereas the Commanders have the Giants, 49ers, Browns, and Cowboys. And so the question then becomes, like I think, you know what I'm saying? Like I think you want the team more likely to lose more games down the. I don't know. It can go both ways, I guess.
Well, I'll tell you this. In terms of the Washington-New York game, you would probably want New York to win because if we're going down the rabbit hole, Washington is 4-4-1 in the NFC. Like I said, New York is 3-5-1. You could bring Washington further under 500. They'd have the same record in the NFC.
Actually, you know what you want to have happen.
Go ahead. A tie.
A tie. A tie. If let's see. Let me see. I got this right. If
let me see. I'm doing the same thing as well. Actually, it's tremendously better. If all of a sudden Washington and New York tie, the Detroit Lions have an 83% chance of making the postseason. I was just saying, well, it's 83% chance if they tie under my circumstance, which I'm going over the next 2 weeks here. So obviously that includes that win against Carolina. Just
winning the next 2 weeks for the Lions and then a Commanders Giants tie would move the Lions to 70% chance to make. And then of course I assume you have them, the Commanders losing to San Francisco.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean it would vault the Lions' chances tremendously. Now, I mean, I don't think we can expect two ties from the same team and the same teams in a span of 3 weeks, but Lord knows that anything's possible out in these NFC East streets. Man, I just think you have to look at this Lions team and say that it's a realistic chance they get the playoffs. Now, having said that, would you be interested in any wagers involving the Detroit Lions? Because they are plus 280 to make the playoffs. Yes. No is minus 340 at Caesars. I'm very interested in that, actually. 3-1, 3-1 to make the playoffs.
I love that.
Yeah. I think I bet him 7-1 2 weeks ago to make the playoffs, actually.
Oh, nice. Good for you.
We'll see. I mean, it's a good
value at the point.
Yeah. The Lions in terms of their long-term future. So, I mean, I think that's a reasonable wager. Like, I think the odds are, and they're what are they right now to make the playoffs before he plugged in all our fancy stuff? 25% maybe.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Right. So let's say that they're 25% to make the playoffs. So just refresh and start to close all these things out. They're 20% to make the playoffs. So technically, I guess 3-2 plus 280 is not an insane value, but I think that it's baking in sort of the future possibility. Like the Commanders are like 73% to make the playoffs, which seems too high to me. Doesn't that seem high?
That does seem a little high. I'm actually looking to see. I don't know if Caesars has their make or miss playoff odds up. I was curious to see what that was going to be. But
it's the Commanders or the Lions.
The Commanders. I was seeing the Lions and I seen the Giants. I just couldn't see the Commanders. But I don't see. Probably has something to do with the Monday night game, if I had to guess, because they have a lot of the AFC.
No, although a bunch of these are locked.
For the AFC
teams are locked because of the
because if New England wins, they move up.
Yeah, the AFC wildcarders are locked. They just don't have the Commanders listed. I guess it's 73%. Maybe they don't want to. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't like the odds that they'd have to throw up there to see.
Well, because I think a lot of us. I think the case I was going to say is that's the team you might want to fade out of all this.
Lions win total. This is a fun one too.
Sure.
Over. Under 8.5. Under 8.5 is minus 170. Over 8.5 is plus 150. So, as we mentioned, the Lions have at the Jets, at the Panthers, Bears at home, and at the Packers. So, in other words, it's basically saying,
do they go 500 down the stretch or
no? Because they're 6 and. So they have to win 3 games.
Right.
Can they go 3-1 to finish out? Is what they're asking. And it's plus 150 that they go 3-1. I think that you would probably be better off betting a progressive parlay where you take the Lions to win this week as what do we have them as? A short favorite?
Yeah, I think it's
schedule. Let's see. The Lions they were a pick'em last night on Sunday. They're still a pick'em. So I think you'd be better off. Let's assume that. What do you think the spread Detroit at Carolina?
Do they have that up? They might even
No,
have that up.
oh, maybe they do. Oh yeah, no, I don't think so. But I would guess that it's. I mean, if the Panthers roll this week and the Lions win, I think at most it'll be like Panthers -1 or 2.
I was gonna say, you say Panthers -1. I
Or
was
Detroit
gonna say
-1. Yeah,
I was gonna say, yeah, it could be Detroit -1.
yeah.
You're hovering around even. You're probably doing the same thing that you're doing this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be pretty close, like to a pick 'em, I think. So
But
knowing
you're much
that,
better. You're much better off if you're talking about, okay, is this team going to go 3-1 down the stretch? And you're better off if you believe they're going to do that. That puts them well in position to make the playoffs, and the odds there are far more lucrative, I would say, than
well, I
just
mean,
saying.
let me just put it this way: is that if you take the Lions this week at a pick, right, on the road, -110, and then so the Patriots next week are
Vegas.
at the Raiders, right?
Yep.
That game's a pick 'em, so I just selected that. The Patriots did that as if it would be the Lions at the Jets. That's plus 264. Like, bet that.
Yeah, that's true.
And then bet, like, or bet, and if they if they lose one of those, I mean, it's not the end of the. I'm saying, like, there's a way you can put together a parlay. You can even do it where you bet let's say, what do we think the Lions will be?
You're basically saying string yourself down the stretch and see if you can
paying
kind of
plus
snowball.
150 to have them go 3-1, because like you could even take the Lions at the Jets this week, or even hold off on the Lions at the Jets, bet Lions at Panthers, and then Lions versus the Bears as a parlay, and like that's probably going to be, let's say, probably. Yeah, like the plus 310. No, they will be favored. They'll be favored at home against the Bears, I guess. So that would be like plus 214. So even just to win those two games, which they have to win to get to either 9 wins or to make the playoffs, you're getting better odds than that.
That makes way more sense.
Yeah. So don't. Yeah, that plus 150 is not really a great value. Okay. Finally, let's look at this. Detroit Lions are 125-1 to win the Super Bowl. I don't hate it. It's not happening, right?
I don't think so.
Plus 50-1 to win the NFC. The division odds are off. Let's just walk through, and then we'll get out of here on this. Just walk through the machinations of what a Lions Super Bowl run would look like.
You're talking about Philadelphia getting clipped early.
Well, all right. So let's say that the Lions get to 9-8, right? Give them a loss. Get to 9-8.
Okay.
Are they the 6th seed or the 7th seed?
They would have to be the 7th seed, right? I guess.
I mean,
is there any other chance that they rise up? Well, I guess no. I'd say that they would probably be the 6th seed, because if it's Washington or New York, they would have that tiebreaker, so they'd be ahead of them.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, we can walk through both of them really quickly, but it's like, let's make them the 6th seed just for, let's say they get to 10 wins and win out. They're the 6th seed, and like the team you don't want to play. Mm-hmm. Oh boy, they're it's like, if you're the 6th seed, you're more than likely, although it's totally possible San Francisco can now catch Minnesota. So
yeah, there's a world where San Francisco is the 2 seed.
I think there's a pretty good world where San Francisco is the 2 seed. Yeah. All right. So if you're the 6th seed, let's say that you're either playing at Minnesota or at San Francisco. If it's at Minnesota, I mean, we feel confident you can win that game.
Sure.
So chalk holds. And this is many as the 3 seed, and Detroit is the 6th seed.
Mm-hmm.
That means that San Francisco, the 7 seed Seattle Seahawks, head to San Francisco. I think San Francisco wins that. Chalk holds. I think Dallas. We'll say Dallas wins in Tampa Bay or Carolina. Kevin knows. So then it would be the 6th seed Lions. If you're the Lions in that case, you would go to Philadelphia in the second round of the playoffs, which is going to Minnesota then to Philadelphia is pretty difficult.
Yeah, that's extremely difficult. You'd almost because there's no
you need the 7 seed to take out the 2 seed.
Right, which if that's San Francisco,
right.
Just, and even if you're the 7th seed
and you take out the 2 seed, then you have to go to Philly the next week, right?
So you have to. You're talking about either facing a 49ers team or a Minnesota.
You can't avoid San Francisco and Philadelphia is the problem.
Exactly. It's exactly right. And
because if Minnesota's the 2 seed, that's right. Yeah. If San Francisco's the 2 seed and you're the 7 seed, you play San Fran. And even if you beat San Francisco, then you get Philly. Yeah, you really can't avoid both of them, I don't think.
Right. And it doesn't feel like we're on the doorstep of a Philadelphia stumble down the stretch where Dallas catches them. That's seems to not
Sure
be
does
happening
not
at all.
go the way. If anything, it's the other way. We're like Philly's resting guys in week 18 because
Yeah.
Dallas didn't care. Okay, so you don't have any interest in that in those. You didn't seem very excited about these Detroit futures.
Well, I mean, it just doesn't feel like that's actually going to happen. I mean, you're
Right.
talking about beating Minnesota and beating Philadelphia in Philadelphia. It's, I guess crazier things have happened in the NFL. I mean, I'm sure it has, but that to me just it
Jared
feels
Goff,
like
Jared Goff going on the road and beating Philly in Philly would be.
I almost wonder if they make this mad dash to the playoffs, and that's almost the exhale. That's almost the victory.
Yeah.
And then you're the sacrificial lamb that gets into the postseason.
Oh, look at Billy. He says, I don't want to play the Lions.
Woo!
What are you talking about? Who do you want to play?
I don't want to play the Lions. The Lions have a lot of offensive weapons,
Yeah,
and I mean anything can happen defensively. Like they still have a decent pass rush, so I'm scared of those guys.
Billy and I were talking about this before, real quickly. If you're Detroit, are you at all kicking yourself that you traded away TJ Hawkinson?
A little bit.
Yeah, right.
But you've been on this run since you traded him, so it's like
So, I don't know. Was he the spark that was he?
no. I mean, like I don't know. Was he unhappy in Detroit?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. You kind of wish you still had him, I think, but yeah. You might have to play him in the playoffs. Billy, as an Eagles fan, give me the order of these teams that you want to play. I know this isn't Lions related per se, but it's like what it is. I mean, Detroit, Washington, Giants, Seattle. What's the order that you want to see them coming to Philly in the second round of the playoffs?
Seattle, Washington, Lions last.
Giants in the would.
Oh, I thought you said Lions. And
No, 14. Washington, Giants, Seattle,
Giants.
Detroit.
Okay.
Giants are probably first.
So Giants, Seattle,
Washington,
Commanders, and then
the Commanders is probably strictly because you don't want to deal with losing to Washington in the playoffs, right?
Oh my God,
Be tough.
that would be hell.
It's a true Carson Wentz revenge game.
Exactly.
From the sidelines. All right. That'll do it for us. For Billy. For Sully. I'm Brinson. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Go Lions. Go Dan Campbell. Go America.